Good morning, students. I'm Ngetich, I'm Mr. School, taking you through geography. This is Form 1 Geography, Introduction to Geography. In our last class, we looked at various things concerning the introduction of geography, right from the definition of the word geography itself, looking at the definition of the term environment, and also the branches of geography, if you can still remember, and also the importance of us studying this subject of geography. Quite a number of the importance of studying geography as a subject. We looked at quite a number. The first one was geography focuses on the physical study of the earth. Therefore, we as the learners, we are able to explain the origin of the earth and the solar system itself. And today, we want to look at the relationship between geography and other subjects. This is what we are coming to look at today in this class. Therefore, after looking at the relationship between geography and other disciplines, we are going to look at also the diagrammatic representation of this relationship between geography and these other disciplines. Quite a number of the disciplines that we are going to look at that relates with geography, right from agriculture. Apart from agriculture, we also have biology. Apart from biology, we have chemistry. Apart from chemistry, we have mathematics. Apart from mathematics, we have climatology, among other disciplines that we are going to look at along the way. When you talk of the relationship between geography and other disciplines, we are trying to look at how geography connects with these other disciplines or these other subjects. For example, when you talk of maths, you want to look at how maths helps the geographer in various fields and also how geography assists the mathematician in their various fields. So the first one, you're going to look at the relationship between geography and the maths. How does the two subjects come to relate? When you look at geography, we are using quite a number of the formulas derived from the concept of the mathematical subject. We are using quite a number of formulas to calculate the distances. In various topics that we are going to learn ahead in Form 2, Form 3, and also Form 4, we are going to look at the statistics. And this means that you're going to calculate the distances, look at the areas, look also at the population densities among quite a number of other calculations that you're going to meet in statistics. And therefore, it means that you're going to require the mathematical formula to derive quite a number of the calculation of the distances, areas, and population densities. Also, geography uses mathematics or the mathematical techniques to analyze and present the data that we have. For example, the graphs that we have, I'm very sure you've looked at the graphs in your mathematical subject among quite a number of others, even including the pie charts. In your primary level, you might need to look at the pie charts among quite a number of other techniques that we have in math. So this means that geography requires math for us to use these techniques to analyze and present the data. When we come to how math relates to geography, we are looking at the mathematics applying the geographical knowledge when you talk of the direction and bearing to calculate the distances around the globe. So this means that one, if you want to move from distance, if you want to cover distance right from station A to station B, it means that you have to calculate the bearing and also the direction from the 2 points. So this means that you're going to require the geographical knowledge in doing this. Therefore, the two disciplines, when we combine the two disciplines, they give rise to what you call the mathematical geography. This is what comes along when we combine the two subjects. Apart from geography and maths, we also have geography and biology. How does geography and biology relate? Geography is interested in the information and distribution of the organisms. When you talk of the organisms, you're talking of the living organisms, the plants and animals, the factors that influence the distribution and influence the behavior of these biological organisms on human activities. Therefore, when you look at the biology, biology is the scientific study of the organisms, which applies geographical information to explain these factors that determine the distribution of species on the Earth's surface. Therefore, they give rise, when you combine biology and geography, they give rise to biogeography. They give rise to biogeography. Apart from geography and biology, we also have geography and agriculture. This is yet another discipline that relates with geography, agriculture being another discipline that relates with geography. Geography is interested in the working at the systems of farming and their distribution and the factors also that affect this farming system. We all know that agriculture, from the definition or the introduction of your subject as agriculture, you were told that agriculture is the rearing and the cultivation of the rearing of the livestock and the cultivation of the crops. Therefore, it means that when you look at the systems, the agricultural systems, you require geography because geography is interested in working at the systems of farming. How do we conduct the farming? We are going to look at that in our Form 4 work when we are looking at the paper 2, the agriculture. We're going to look at how deeply the relationship between geography and agriculture comes about. Therefore, when you talk of the rearing and the rearing of the livestock and the cultivation of the crops, we are talking of the relationship between geography and agriculture. Apart from geography and agriculture, we have geography and the physics. How does geography and physics relate? Geography studies the atmosphere, focusing on the heat. And this heat, definitely, we all know that it comes from the sun. Right from your knowledge from the primary school, which is responsible for the movement of the air, evaporation of the water, and also the distribution of the water in the atmosphere. Physics looks at the heat itself, the magnetic field, and the gravity. And therefore, through physics, a geographer is able to understand the causes and the effects of the earthquakes and the vibrations of the earth, since physics focuses on the same. Remember, when you talk of earthquakes, you're going to look at that as a topic of its own in Form 2. We're going to understand more about the earthquakes. We're going to focus more on how the earthquake affects the human activities on the earth surface. So this means that we are going to require the knowledge of the physics because we are talking of the magnetic field, the gravity, and also the heat. This comes along because of all these, that is, we are going to focus on the heat from the sun. The two of these disciplines give the rise to the branch of knowledge known as geophysics. Apart from geography and physics, we also want to look at the relationship between other two disciplines, that is geography and chemistry. How does geography and chemistry relate? Chemistry is the study of substances, composition, and how they behave. While when you talk of how geography uses chemistry, is that geography uses chemistry to study the chemical composition of the rocks. Later on, at the end of our course in Form 1, we are going to look at the rocks and minerals. We are going to look at the composition of these rocks. Therefore, it means that we are going to require the knowledge of chemistry to understand the chemical composition of these rocks. And that is where the chemistry comes in to aid in the study of geography. So as a geographer, you will require this knowledge of chemistry in studying the chemical composition of rocks and soils. And then apart from geography and chemistry, we also have geography and history as another discipline. How does geography and history relate? History is the study of the past events or the records of the past events, while geography explains where these events took place. It means that we're going to require the knowledge of history. We cannot talk of the past events or the records of the past events without having the knowledge of history. And therefore, we must have this knowledge of history for us to have the relationship between these two disciplines. Of course, history also uses the geographical techniques, like the maps, for example, the charts, to study the migration and the settlement of the people. Various migration and settlements are being explained in history, but also they require the geographical technique, the maps, and also the charts to explain this. And therefore, the two disciplines comes together to assist themselves. And therefore, this gives rise to a branch that is called historical geography. Apart from geography and history, we also have geography and medicine. There is yet another discipline that you want to look at. How does geography and medicine relate? Medicine deals with the prevention, the diagnosis, and the curing of the diseases, while geography looks at the distribution of these diseases. It also looks at the factors that influence the spread and how these diseases affect the way of the people, while we are making use of the natural resources. Therefore, it gives rise to another branch that is called the medical geography. Apart from geography and medicine, we also have geography and meteorology. This is another discipline that's related to geography, meteorology. What do we understand by meteorology? We are talking of meteorology focusing on the atmospheric conditions of the regions and weather focusing. So when you look at your environment, when you look at atmospheric conditions of the region, when you look at how weather affects your environment, that is what we refer to as meteorology. And therefore, how does meteorology and geography relate? Geography makes use of the knowledge of meteorology to classify these climatic regions, therefore giving rise to a branch called climatology. This is because meteorology focuses mainly on the atmospheric conditions that we have and also the weather within our own environment. Apart from geography and meteorology, we also have another discipline that is geography and geology. Geography and geology. Geology is the study of origin, structure, and composition of the earth, including the rocks. While geography studies the rocks, which I've told you we're going to look at that topic of rocks and minerals, while geography studies the rocks as part of the environment and determines the landforms of that environment, this means that it requires the knowledge of geology. Without the knowledge of geology, we cannot look at the origin, the structure, and the composition of these rocks. And therefore, it gives rise to a branch known as geology. morphology. This is the branch that comes along when we have the relationship between geography and geology. Apart from geography and geology, we also have other two disciplines, that is geography and economics, and lastly, geography and engineering. Apart from the other disciplines that we have seen, we want to look at geography and economics as another discipline, geography and economics. You want to look at the relationship between the two disciplines. How does geography and economics relate? Economics is the study of the production, distribution, and consumption of the commodities, while geography looks at these methods of production, the methods of the movement of these commodities, and the factors that affect the production and the movement and the distribution and the consumption of these commodities. It means that when you look at the relationship between geography and economics, you cannot talk about the production, distribution, and consumption of the commodities without looking at the economic. So this means that you have to know the economics aspect of these commodities before you look at how they are produced, how they are distributed, and how they are consumed. So this gives rise to the branch known as economic geography. Apart from geography and economics, we want to look at the last one, that is the relationship between geography and engineering. How does geography relate to engineering? Engineering, of course, involves the designing and the construction of the roads, the dams, the buildings that you live in, among quite a number of other structures. Of course, a good knowledge is required when we are doing this construction of various roads, various dams, and also various buildings. And therefore, it means that a geographer requires, or an engineer, not a geographer but an engineer, requires a good knowledge of geography to enable them to know the types of the soils and the rocks, because the farm soils and the farm rocks give a very firm foundation of the buildings, the foundation of the dams, and also the roads. So without the knowledge of the soils, the knowledge of the rocks, an engineer cannot be in a position to come up with a design of constructing all these items that we have. And lastly, today in our session, we want to look at the diagrammatic representation of geography and all these disciplines that we have. We're going to look at that before we end our lesson. So from the diagram that we have the relationship between geography and other disciplines. This sums up what we have been discussing so far. As you can see from the diagram, we have economical geography. This is the relation between geography and economics. Also, we have historical geography, the relation between geography and history. Also, we have the population geography, which is demography. Also, we have meteorology, which is climatology, the relation between geography and meteorology. The relation between geography and maths, giving us mathematical geography. The relation between geography and medicine, giving us medical geography. The relationship between biology and geography, giving us biogeography. The relation between geology and geography, giving us geomorphology. And also the relation between agriculture and geography, giving us agricultural geography. All these agricultural geography, geomorphology, biogeography, medical geography, mathematical geography, climatology are grouped under the physical and biological sciences. Whereas population geography, historical geography, economical geography are grouped under the social sciences. Kindly have this diagram and be looking at it because surprise you in an exam with this diagram and maybe give you the blank spaces for you to fill in all these disciplines that relate with geography. Lastly, I want us to have also a diagrammatic representation of how geography is a central part as a science subject. Remember, when you're looking at the definition, we saw that geography also is a science subject. You want to look at the centrality of geography as a science. So this is the last diagrammatic representation that shows us the relationship between geography and other disciplines. As we are looking at in this diagram, the centrality of geography as a science. The centrality of geography as a science. When you look at the geometrical sciences, the social sciences, the art sciences, all of them have to relate with geography. At the same time, we cannot only talk of geography without having the relation between all these three sciences. Remember, in our previous diagram, we looked at the social sciences, also the physical and the biological sciences being grouped into two. And this means that all of them relate to geography, and also geography relates with all these sciences. Till our next class, whereby we are coming to look at the Earth and the solar system, I wish you the best. Stay safe and look at geography as an interesting subject.